All right, so let's go back into it. Let's read this again so you can understand this real quick. No, we are going to this point. Okay, this is what I was going into, right? So Paleo Hebrew script is indeed an early Semitic script used to write Hebrew before the adoption of the square Aramaic scripts, right? Which later became the classical Hebrew alphabet. Here is a precise summary. Number of letters. Paleo Hebrew, like other Canaanite scripts, consists of 22 letters, all consonants. This is typical of early Semitic alphabets. They did not originally have symbols for vowels. Symbols for vowels. Relation to Canaanite script. Paleo Hebrew is directly descendants from the Phoenician script, the main Canaanite script of the region. By the 5th century BCE, in Judea, Paleo Hebrew was still in use, although the Aramaic square script was gradually replacing it for official documents, especially under the Persian influence. In other words, the Persian captivity. Now pay attention and listen to what changed. The Persian influence changed the way it was written from the ancient Paleo to the Aramaic square script, right? But keep listening. Time period. Paleo Hebrew was used in Israel and Judea roughly in the 10th century BCE until the 5th century BCE. Until the 5th century BCE. So it's not just talking about the square script. Until the 5th century BCE, but inscriptions in the script are especially common in the 8th and 6th century BCE after the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BCE Jews. Let's keep going. Increasingly used Aramaic square script for writing Hebrew. Characteristics. Each letter corresponds to the consonant song. There were no distinct vowels, letters in the original system, though later diacritical system or adaptations allowed for the vowels. It's added in after. So you make sure and argue the point that English is a mixture as well as Yiddish. And then we get back to the core points. What was added in? Vowels. Shows that the Phoenician script, not the Phoenician, the Paleo Hebrew or Proto-Semitic ancient script, the original letters or the original pronunciations or the consonant letters would have only include YHWH or YAHAWAH and TA and CHA and PA and RA. This is how it was. This is how it was. This is how it used to be until this period when it was added in. Which is why I made the declaration that the ancient Hebrew W was original. The consonant was original to the ancient Paleo Hebrew, and the U wasn't. Because if something was added in to the ancient Hebrew, it cannot be original to the ancient Hebrew. It's clear. And if it was original to another, which is Indo-European P or Pi, then okay, make it make sense. If it was original to that, then something would have transpired for these things to come to pass. It literally shows you, though later diacritical systems or adaptations allowed for vowels. Do we need to continue here? Here's the answer. No. W was a consonant, not a vowel. The letter I, which pronounced as WA, was originally pronounced W, like water, exactly, wa, wa, all right? It was never the letter U. It functioned as a semi-vowel or a consonant. Semi-vowel in the Indo-European, a consonant in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew. U was a syllable sound, not a letter. There was no U letter. Ancient Hebrew had no vowel letters. U exists only as a spoken syllable sound. That sound was later indicated, not written. See? How the U sound was expressed, often implied for after water or bisyllable structure, later marked by masocratic signs as suraj and qubits. These were added 1,000 years later, not original. It was added what? 1,000 years later, but it was not original. One more time. Adding 1,000 years later, but not original. Not original to what? Ancient Hebrew. It's very much clear. Exactly was mentioned in the beginning that it was never original to the ancient Hebrew alphabet, O, E, and U. Some are going to get real pissed. I telling you. Many of you are pissed because many of you watch this video. Make a Sima go through it back to back with sources, canonical sources to historical accuracy and biblical standpoints, and you cannot deny this fact. That's why I keep bringing it out to me, because this is an undeniable fact to me. Sources, scholars, archaeological points, Moabite stone, lost lunar stone, with the same pronunciation of consonant sounds, being the ancient Hebrew. Same writing of Paleo ancient script. If y'all didn't find that, y'all could have said different. But as scripture says, very clear, prophecy. Go back into prophecy. It says, to the point, Salak. Back into it, we go back into it. Zephaniah chapter 3 and verses 9. As it goes back to say, for then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. This is the reason why the language would have been brought back. This is why these information must be brought out, so one could now be able to discern what is true and what is not. And by providing these canonical sources that directly deals with linguistic languages of the ancient Hebrew script, being the Paleo Hebrew script of consonant songs by 22 consonant letters, which was mentioned, you all cannot deny this fact. So now we understand. Like, look at what's man. There's more, you know. You don't realize that I just touched the tip of the iceberg. You know? There is a lot more. I just show you because I didn't even reach none of these yet. There is a lot more where that came from, and I just showing you up to here. We could keep going though. It makes it worse now. It makes it worse now. We will keep going for your sake. It says, important distinction. This is key. The category of ancient Hebrew, W, real consonant, U, not a letter, U, a spoken syllable, written vowel, none, V, sound, later developed. So not only was the vowels later developed or later added in as shown, but also is V. So come on. Now we're not dealing with the V because no one says these use V in the those that are realize or waking up to be Israelites. They don't use V. Like that makes no sense. So I'm not gonna even go into that. That is horribly it's known to be created and added in later times, later than the time when U was added in. So it's not a problem. But the problem is people like to use the same U's with not understanding the ancient Hebrew and where it comes from and the origins to it. So we have to bring out the origins to it, which we did again. It even let me read verse 4. It says, because we have to go continue it. It says, YHWH contains a W, not a V. Jehovah is impossible in ancient Hebrew. J didn't exist. V didn't exist. See, written vowels didn't exist. Pronunciations with W align with ancient Semitic phonological and theophoric names. Paleo-Hebrew usage, as it says, W. I wish I could remove that thing, that arrow. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. W was used in names as a consonant. This is why we have the YHWH, because in its consonant it would be referring to YAHAWAH, which is Yahweh, not Jehovah and Jehovah Jireh and Jesus Christ. No. It has nothing to do with the Heavenly Father, His name, what His purpose is. The name gives purpose. He exists will be the definition of His name, because He exists. He's the Ancient of Days. Let me see, I want to go back into ChatGPT. Alright, so bottom line, W was used in named as a consonant. Used in names as a consonant. It was not U. W was. U existed only as a spoken syllable. U was never a letter. V was not original. Ancient Hebrew was consonantal. Talk, done. Talk, done. One more time. Talk, done. I want to go into ChatGPT now. I said I'm going to it, but I end up going to the next page. So let me show this before I go in. I was now going to it. Let me show this because I want to get I want to ask the question so you can see for yourself, right? Unless you probably have it here going up already. But let you see. It says, this is what I post. I says showing this here showing the ancient Hebrew. Yes, this image is showing ancient Hebrew or Paleo Hebrew correctly. It's doing something important by contrasting it with later Assyrian and Aramaic script, Aramaic's so-called modern Hebrew. Ancient Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew in 1200 BCE. Let's go. Right, is it right? Okay, right. Let's go. It says, top section of the image. This is the original script used by Moses, the judges, early kings, David and Solomon. It's a pictographic and a phonetic, closely related to early Northwest Semitic scripts. Each letter had the sound and a conceptual meaning. Example, Wa, W-A, which is they call this thing, the little hyphen thingy there. Of course, I try to mix it with the other script, which we know, as we have read, does not exist. But they match it up now with what we know as the modern Hebrew, along with other language like He. Seen that? So let's keep going. Key point: there is no V sounds in ancient Hebrew. It says the letter later called Vav was originally Wow, which goes back into Wa. This agrees with early inscriptions, Ugaritic Phoenicians, Moabite stone, and LXX transliterations. So Assyrian script, 600 BCE, bottom section is the image which we showed. The script was adapted during and after the Babylonian captivity, Ezra, Nehemiah period. I'm trying to get the rest down here. Let's see, get the rest. Ezra, Nehemiah. But this is not the original This is not the original script. It comes from the Imperial Aramaic, not Sinai Hebrew. See? So the square script as shown is not the original script. It says this is why scriptures say the Jews' letter changed. Ah boy. Historical records, not Torah. Alright? Linguistic shift. Very important. Ancient Hebrew W, wow, which is W, is now shift to what? U and O sound. Why this matters biblically is Zephaniah chapter 3 and 9, which you also go into, and I had the next precept holding, but as it's there already, let's go into it. Let's go to Zephaniah chapter 3 and 9. Then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord, which is Yahweh Shemel, to serve him with one consent. But let's go into verses, Zephaniah chapter 19 and verses 16 to 18, the prophecies mentioned also. Let's get that. Not Zephaniah, Isaiah chapter 19 and verses 16, it says, on to the next lesson. Stay tuned.